Jill and I were discussing last year as part of the Humanities Academy projects, what kinds of activities do we do as humanities teachers? English, history, art, music. What do we do that is unique, and how can we engage children? How can you be like an orchestra in an English classroom or a social studies classroom? And we had the Model Congress kids with us at the State House, and they were scurrying all throughout the building very purposefully with all these different jobs. And Jill said, "Don't you wish it were like this every day?" And that got us talking about the difference between walking into a classroom with a prepared set of notes that you explain or deliver versus having the kids, they'd all arrived with their bills and they wanted them to be passed. The more that we could get past, the better. And that's kind of where the genesis for transitioning to a Socratic seminar format complete with a Harkness table, I think was born.
And I think that speaks to the point that learning for children is messy. And we so often like things in public schools to be neat desks in a row, the teacher neatly speaking at the front of the room to their children and they're taking neat notes. But real learning's messy and it can get ugly. And students have to kind of dig their hands in and work with each other with their teacher as a guide, not at the center stage. So when we were able to witness the kids get so excited at Model Congress, they weren't really sure what they were doing. It was getting messy and sometimes sort of controlled chaos. But we thought, isn't it great to bring this into the classroom as many days as we can into the regular school year.
So it's a process of student inquisition. They pose questions, they answer questions, and it works a little differently in an English class and a history class, the kinds of text they're analyzing.
I think one of the biggest benefits of this style classroom and the Socratic method is that we have the opportunity to teach children how to become prepared to sit at that table versus in the traditional style, kids come in ready to listen and take notes and then study later. Whereas in the Socratic method, they come in ready to bring their own ideas and their own questions, and we teach them about thoughtful questions and how to keep discussions going so that when they get better and better at this, we can sort of disappear a little bit and say less as the students are saying more. And it's a beautiful experience to watch that happen over time. They need us a little bit more in the beginning, and we teach them and mold them. But then it's so interesting to see how they come ready with their questions. And as Ani said, they'll come to us after and say, I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say. So that we can extend the lessons, use the technology to post more information and keep it going.
We can make a round table for 10. We can make a slightly more oval shaped that would easily accommodate, say, 12, something almost identical to the traditional Harkness table of Phillips Exeter or the Lawrenceville School. But the beauty of our table, and our table is truly unique. It was designed for us. And it's called a flex class table. And ours has rectangular pieces. Altogether, we've got 7 rectangular pieces and 2 half moon pieces. So we can accommodate, Jill has a class of 28 kids. And although that seems to be like, oh, obviously everyone can't speak, but we can have them scoot every other chair back or forward. We can have every other person listen and track the conversation and remember what's been said. So there are all kinds of different ways to give students a belonging in the classroom. We can make rectangular groupings to accommodate 8 to 10 kids. The circle will accommodate 10. So we could have, say, 4 smaller groups of roughly 5 or 6 children, and then reconfigure. And they can do it in we've timed them. They can go from pieces to a full Socratic table in about 4 minutes currently. They've got a whole little system that they're working to learn. doesn't always go perfectly.
So I think at the most fundamental level, the students may have been a little bit intimidated at first, like we have to move these tables and what's the difference between a table and a regular desk, sort of skeptical, maybe a little intimidated. But now that they're using them, and we're talking about classes at all levels, not just AP or honors level classes, students who are more used to Socratic method, but all levels of classes. And these students have told me that they feel like they're really part of a group, that they don't feel that they're sitting isolated in one desk, but rather part of something bigger. And that's been fun to watch over time.
Well, in math, how we have desks, it's so much like every person is thinking by themselves and doing everything by themselves. And when there's tables like this, it's just like everyone comes together and works together more.
It seems that even the students who are a little bit more quiet and like their individuality are sort of forced out of their comfort zone a little bit, and it's been very, very positive for them. So they're getting more involved with their peers, they're getting more involved and engaged in the lessons of the day. So even when we don't have the table as a full Socratic method table, and we break it into either small groups or sort of more traditional seating, they still feel part of something because they're not isolated in their seating.
It's a lot easier to communicate with other people. You get a lot more ideas and perspectives when you're working in a group like that, because if you have the separate desks, you're working by yourself and you're not going to turn around to talk to everybody. But when you're sitting in a group like that, it's so much easier to just share ideas with other people and get different perspectives, and you better understand the idea that you're learning. So I like that a lot.
They feel like their voices count. They feel like they are heard and they are important. They feel like they're kind of in their living room and they're having a conversation about something that's important to them versus being talked at in a way that might feel condescending or foreign or strange in any way. They feel really a part of the classroom.
Like in normal classes, you have like the single desks and your ideas are blocked off. It's only like your teacher's ideas and like their thoughts on the topic, and you don't really have a say in it. But when you're sitting in a round table and you express your own ideas and opinions, like it just brings like a wider view on things.
So just yesterday, one of my students in a classroom not originally targeted to participate mentioned how comfortable he felt even when we were sitting like this side by side. And I was actually moving from student to review their progress on an essay, and I could do it very easily, very unobtrusively.
It's also like we're all facing the teacher, so she can like walk through but not like bother anyone because it's not like single desks.
I've also noticed that simply having the table in the room sort of elevates the level of respect overall in the room. And I don't know why that is, if it's just magic physical space that does that, but for some reason, because the table is a beautiful table, and obviously we put a lot of tender love and care in trying to get this table here, they respect that. They respect that something very nice was done for them and for their learning. And you can tell in what they give back when they're in the classroom. They respect the physical space, they respect when they're at the table, and give their best when they're in the classroom with us.